I destroyed my wife's life in 4 days. She deserved every second of it. 15 years ago, when I first saw Claire hunched over her marketing textbooks in the university library at 2 in the morning, I thought I was looking at my future. And I was right. Just not the future I imagined. We were the couple everyone envied. College sweethearts who actually made it work. David and Claire Miller, the golden pair who proved that real love existed. I was the steady engineer with the reliable paycheck. She was the ambitious marketing executive with infectious laugh and big dreams. Together, we built what everyone called the perfect marriage. Our house on Maple Street embodied that perfection, a restored Victorian with the wraparound porch Claire had always wanted. Inside, every room told our story. The kitchen where we'd learned to cook together, the living room with comfortable furniture accumulated piece by piece, the master bedroom where we'd whispered secrets and dreams. The guest bedroom upstairs had been Claire's latest project. 4 months ago, she'd claimed it as her private retreat for important work calls with her demanding new boss. I'd helped her move the antique writing desk up there, along with a comfortable reading chair. It was her sanctuary, and I respected that. Trust was our foundation. I should have been suspicious when Claire started working late more often, coming home exhausted and distracted. When conversations became shorter, more surface level. When she kept her phone face down and stepped outside for certain calls. But Claire had just been promoted to senior marketing director, and her new boss Richard was notoriously difficult. Work stress made sense. That Saturday morning in March changed everything. Claire had left early for shopping with her sister. The house felt unusually quiet. I decided to tackle spring cleaning, starting with the guest bedroom that had accumulated dust since Claire claimed it. Moving furniture revealed forgotten secrets. Behind the writing desk, I found a hair tie that wasn't Claire's usual black elastic. This one had tiny pearls. Under the area rug, I discovered a contact lens case, still moist. Neither of us wore contacts. But when I moved the bed frame to vacuum underneath, I found something that stopped my heart completely. An ashtray. A small ceramic ashtray decorated with painted flowers, hidden where no casual glance would find it. Inside were 5 cigarette butts, each marked with red lipstick stains, the same passionate crimson shade Claire wore religiously. Neither of us smoked. Claire was militantly anti-smoking, having lost her grandmother to lung cancer. She'd made me quit my occasional social smoking when we got serious. The smell of tobacco in restaurants still made her leave immediately. The cigarette butts were different brands, Marlboro Lights and Camels, suggesting multiple visits. The lipstick stains were fresh. The ashtray was hidden deliberately, positioned where only someone moving the bed would discover it. My hands shook. How many times had someone sat in this room, in our home, smoking with my wife? How long had this been going on? I set the ashtray back exactly where I'd found it, my mind racing through desperate explanations. Maybe Claire had started smoking secretly due to stress? Maybe she was too embarrassed to tell me? But I knew these were lies. Someone else had been in our home, sharing cigarettes with my wife in the room I'd helped make beautiful. When Claire returned 3 hours later, I was reading in the living room, looking peaceful. But everything had changed. Our perfect marriage had developed a crack, and I could feel the entire structure beginning to shift. "David? I'm home," she called out, her voice carrying unusual cheer. "In the living room," I called back. She appeared with shopping bags and a bright smile, more radiant than she'd been in months. "I'm going to take a nice long bath and then model my new dress for you," she said warmly. She headed upstairs, leaving her purse and phone on the kitchen counter. Unusual, since she'd recently kept both within arm's reach. An opportunity I'd never noticed before, but now saw as significant. The sound of running bath water echoed through our house like a countdown timer. I approached Claire's phone like it might explode. In 15 years of marriage, I had never once gone through my wife's device. Trust didn't require verification, but trust was a luxury I could no longer afford. Her passcode was our anniversary date. At least some things hadn't changed. But as the screen unlocked, I discovered something that made my blood run cold. Everything was gone. Her call log was empty despite knowing she'd made calls today. Text message history contained only sanitized exchanges with family from the past week. Browser history was completely blank. Photo gallery contained nothing recent. This level of digital cleanliness was impossible. Claire had always been casual with technology, never deleting anything, constantly complaining about storage space. Her old phone contained thousands of photos, endless text conversations, cluttered browser histories. She'd needed my help regularly to organize her digital life. This phone belonged to someone else entirely. Someone careful. Someone with secrets. Upstairs, Claire sang softly in the bathtub, an old college song that used to make me smile. Now it sounded like performance, as if she knew I was listening and wanted to project contentment. I returned her phone to its exact position and retreated to my home office. I needed data. Real information, not Claire's sanitized version. Thanks to my engineering profession, I had the tools to get it. Installing phone monitoring software was ethically questionable, but discovering cigarette butts in our guest bedroom had shifted my moral framework considerably. I researched options, settling on sophisticated software that would mirror all activity from Claire's device to mine in real time. Calls, texts, emails, even deleted items. Everything would be preserved. Installation required physical access for 3 minutes while Claire slept deeply. The risk was enormous. If caught, our marriage would end regardless of what I found. But I suspected our marriage was already over. I just didn't know it yet. Sunday evening, I prepared carefully. I cooked Claire's favorite dinner and opened wine we'd been saving. She seemed delighted, more affectionate than she'd been in months. We talked about work, vacation plans, repainting the kitchen, normal conversation that now felt like dialogue from a play. After dinner, we watched a movie cuddled together. Claire fell asleep against my shoulder during credits. I waited an additional hour until certain she was deeply unconscious. Moving like a burglar in my own home, I extracted her phone and initiated software installation. 2 minutes and 47 seconds later, the process was complete. I returned the phone and crept back to bed, where Claire slept peacefully, her face innocent in moonlight. The monitoring software needed 24 hours to integrate, 24 hours during which I maintained normal routine while slowly losing my mind. I went to work Monday, tried focusing on projects, but part of my attention stayed on my phone, waiting for first mirrored notifications. Claire seemed particularly happy Monday evening, humming while preparing dinner, asking about my day with genuine interest. She mentioned Tuesday would be another late night, video conference with West Coast clients running until 10 or 11. She seemed apologetic, promising a quiet evening Wednesday to compensate. I nodded and smiled while something cold settled in my chest. Tuesday nights had become a pattern. Claire's weekly late meetings that left her exhausted but somehow energized, like she drew life from somewhere outside our marriage. The breakthrough came Tuesday evening at 7:43 p.m. I was watching a documentary about architectural engineering when my phone buzzed with notifications, mirrored alerts from Claire's device. The monitoring software had activated. Claire was upstairs, supposedly preparing for her video conference. But notifications flooding my phone told a different story. Text messages appeared in real time between Claire and Richard, her boss. Richard had written, "Can't wait to see you tonight. I've been thinking about last week all day." Claire had replied, "David just settled in downstairs. Give me 20 minutes to get him ready, then come over." Richard responded, "Same plan as always?" Claire answered, "Of course. He'll be out cold in 15 minutes. I have everything ready." I stared at my screen, reading words over and over, hoping they would rearrange into something innocent. But there was no innocent interpretation. More messages appeared. Claire had texted, "I put extra in his coffee tonight. He should be completely unconscious by 8:15. Richard replied. Perfect. Should I use the back door? Claire responded. Yes, I'll unlock it now. Can't wait to feel your hands on me again. The phone slipped from my fingers. My wife was drugging me. Every Tuesday night's unusual drowsiness suddenly made sense. Falling asleep earlier despite adequate rest. Mornings when I woke groggy and disoriented. Claire had been slipping something into my evening coffee, ensuring unconsciousness while she entertained her lover. The betrayal was so complete, so calculating, I couldn't process it. This wasn't weakness or mistake. This was premeditated, systematic deception spanning weeks, maybe months. As I sat in shock, I heard Claire's footsteps coming downstairs. David? She called sweetly. I'm making coffee. Would you like your usual? My usual. The coffee she'd been doctoring for weeks, transforming our evening ritual into assault weapon against my consciousness. That sounds perfect, I managed to respond. Thank you, sweetheart. Claire appeared moments later with steaming mugs and the soft smile I'd fallen in love with years ago. She looked beautiful, radiant, her eyes bright with anticipation for another successful night of deception. Here you go, she said, settling beside me and handing me the mug. I added extra cream tonight. I know you've been stressed. Extra cream to mask whatever drug she was using. I accepted the coffee with steady hands while my phone buzzed with another message from her lover. Richard had texted, "On my way. Is he ready?" The coffee cup felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. I could smell our favorite blend, but underneath was something else, a faint chemical odor I'd dismissed as cleaning products. How many Tuesday nights had I consumed this poison willingly? Claire sat beside me, her body language casual, but I sensed predatory attention. She was watching for signs the drugs were taking effect, waiting for me to become the compliant victim she needed. I'll be right back, I mumbled, letting my voice slur slightly. Need the bathroom? Of course, honey, she replied supportively. Take your time. I walked unsteadily to the hallway bathroom, coffee mug in hand. Once inside, I locked the door and immediately dumped the contents down the sink, watching doctored liquid swirl away. I rinsed the mug thoroughly, then filled it with tap water. In the kitchen, I quickly prepared fresh coffee, ensuring it matched the temperature and appearance of Claire's preparation. The process took 3 minutes but felt eternal. Every sound from the living room made me freeze. Returning to the couch, Claire looked up with seeming concern. You look tired, David. Maybe you should relax, she suggested. Yeah, I think I will, I said, settling beside her and sipping clean coffee. This is hitting me harder than usual. The lie came easily. I let my eyelids grow heavy, breathing deepen, posture slack against cushions. Through barely opened eyes, I watched Claire watch me, her expression shifting from concern to satisfaction as she believed I was succumbing. My hidden phone continued buzzing with notifications from her conversation with Richard. Each vibration felt like electrical shock. By 8:20, I was slumped completely against cushions, breathing in deep, regular rhythm of unconscious sleep. Claire waited several minutes before moving, testing my responsiveness by saying my name softly, then loudly. When I failed to react, she finally stood. Sleep well, darling, she whispered, her lips brushing my forehead in a kiss that burned like acid. I listened to her footsteps, to the kitchen first, where the back door clicked unlocked, then upstairs to the guest bedroom for final preparations. The house settled into silence. At 8:35, the back door opened carefully. Footsteps crossed our kitchen floor, deliberately quiet, but unable to avoid the creaking board near the refrigerator. A man was creeping through my house, believing he was safe because my wife had drugged me unconscious. I cracked my eyes enough to see a tall figure moving through hallway shadows. Richard was exactly what I'd expected. Confident, well-dressed, even for clandestine encounters, moving with familiarity of someone who'd done this before. He paused at the stairs' bottom, looking toward where I lay supposedly unconscious, then smiled with satisfaction before heading up. Sounds of their reunion drifted down. Claire's delighted laughter, Richard's deep voice, then silence that spoke louder than conversation. They were in bed together in the room I'd helped decorate. I forced myself to remain motionless, body rigid with fury while maintaining drug-induced sleep appearance. But my mind raced, calculating, planning. This wasn't just adultery anymore. This was systematic deception, chemical assault, betrayal demanding comprehensive consequences. While they occupied themselves upstairs, I carefully retrieved my phone and reviewed captured messages. The conversation history revealed the affair's full scope, and what I discovered made my stomach turn. The relationship had begun 4 months ago during late-night work sessions. What started as professional collaboration became personal, then sexual, then something far more dangerous. They weren't just having an affair. They were planning a future together requiring my complete removal. Earlier messages revealed discussions about my increasing instability, manufactured incidents they were documenting to build a case for mental incompetence. Richard had suggested increasing dosage, creating more dramatic episodes of confusion and disorientation. The plan was eventually having me committed to psychiatric facility, allowing Claire to claim our assets and begin her new life without messy divorce complications. This wasn't adultery. It was attempted psychological murder. I screenshot every message, every photo, every piece of evidence, while sounds from upstairs confirmed they were too distracted to notice phone activity. The monitoring software had preserved everything they thought deleted, creating a digital trail that would destroy both lives. But evidence wasn't enough. I needed leverage and justice matching the scope of their crime. Over the next hour, while they enjoyed what they believed would be another consequence-free night, I began planning their destruction. I researched Richard's background, discovering he was married to Sarah with 2 children under 10. His LinkedIn profile painted the picture of devoted family man and community leader. I found Claire's company policies regarding workplace relationships and ethical conduct. Both adultery and abuse of supervisory relationships were explicit termination grounds. Richard's position as Claire's boss made their affair particularly damaging legally. Most importantly, I began documenting tonight's encounter. Using my phone's camera, I photographed the unlocked back door, evidence of someone else's presence, sounds from upstairs. I recorded timestamps, documented physical evidence, created comprehensive records impossible to deny. At 11:15, I heard movement upstairs. Voices, running water, sounds of 2 people preparing to separate and return to deceptive lives. Richard would slip out believing he'd successfully used and humiliated an unconscious husband again. Claire would check on me, confirm I was still sleeping, and go to bed satisfied with another perfectly executed betrayal. But this was the last time they would underestimate me. Over the next 3 days, I would implement their complete destruction, and unlike their sloppy emotional planning, my revenge would be methodical, thorough, and absolutely devastating. The back door closed softly at 11:28. Claire's footsteps approached the living room, and I prepared to give her one final performance as her drugged, helpless victim. After tonight, I would never be helpless again. The next 4 days passed in controlled madness. I maintained our normal routine while systematically dismantling the lives of 2 people who had tried to destroy mine. Every smile I gave Claire, every casual conversation about dinner plans, was performed while evidence compiled automatically and revenge plans crystallized. The monitoring software continued capturing everything. More messages revealed their relationship's full scope and future plans. They'd discussed vacation destinations for their post-divorce life, analyzed my potential reactions to psychological provocations, and calculated financial benefits of having me declared incompetent rather than simply divorced. Richard had consulted with a lawyer about involuntary psychiatric commitment, forwarding information to Claire with messages like, "This could work faster than we thought," and we just need a few more documented episodes. They had been poisoning me, gaslighting me, and plotting my institutional imprisonment so they could steal my life. The premeditated cruelty was breathtaking, but I had advantages they didn't know about. My engineering background taught systematic thinking, planning for contingencies, and executing complex projects with precision timing. While they were amateurs driven by lust and greed, I approached their destruction like a professional contract. First, I documented everything. Every message, photo, and incriminating detail was preserved, backed up, and organized into a comprehensive dossier telling their story with devastating clarity. I included timestamps, technical metadata, and annotations making denials impossible. Then I researched their vulnerabilities. Richard's wife, Sarah, was a kindergarten teacher active in their children's school and church community. She had social media profiles full of family photos and proud posts about her husband's achievements. She deserved to know who she'd actually married. Claire's parents were conservative people who'd raised her with strong moral values. They adored me and often commented on how proud they were of our stable, faithful marriage. Their discovery of Claire's true character would be devastating but necessary. Both worked for Morrison and Associates, a marketing firm with strict ethical standards and reputation for family values. Their employee handbook explicitly prohibited romantic relationships between supervisors and subordinates, with termination being standard consequence. I had their personal email addresses, family contacts, professional networks, and social media connections. I could reach everyone who mattered simultaneously, ensuring they couldn't control the narrative or minimize damage. Friday evening, Claire announced she'd invited Richard and his wife over for dinner the following week. "I really want you to get to know my boss better," she said with convincing enthusiasm. "Sarah seems lovely, and I think you two would enjoy each other's company." The irony was perfect. Claire wanted me to befriend her lover's wife, probably as part of their psychological campaign to make me seem unstable when I eventually reacted. Instead, I agreed enthusiastically and began planning to make that dinner party memorable for different reasons. Tuesday night arrived like destiny. I'd spent the weekend finalizing every detail, creating automated email sequences that would deploy evidence to carefully selected recipients at timed intervals. Sarah had already received an anonymous package, but agreed to wait until Tuesday before acting. Claire prepared my coffee with her usual loving smile, perhaps adding extra drugs since she seemed more excited than usual. I accepted the cup gratefully, kissed her cheek, and told her I loved her, my ritual farewell to the woman I'd married, since I knew that person was gone. As I dumped the doctored coffee and positioned myself on the couch, I wasn't planning to simply gather more evidence. Tonight was the night their secret world would collide with reality. Richard arrived at 8:35, using his key with casual confidence of someone who'd done this dozens of times. He paused in our kitchen to text Claire. "He's out. Coming up." I waited until I heard them settle into their routine upstairs, then quietly stood, turned on every living room light, and positioned myself at the stairs' bottom. "Claire," I called conversationally, "could you come down here for a minute?" The silence that followed was profound. No more intimacy sounds, no whispered conversations, just heavy quiet of two people realizing their world had fundamentally shifted. "David?" Claire's voice was high, uncertain, containing the first genuine fear I'd heard in months. "Yes, darling. You too, Richard." "I know you're both up there," I responded calmly. Frantic movement followed. Scrambling, whispered arguments, people trying to make impossible decisions in seconds. Finally, footsteps on stairs, and Claire appeared wearing her bathrobe, face pale but attempting confused innocence. "David, what's wrong? You're supposed to be—" She caught herself. "Supposed to be what, Claire? Unconscious? Drugged into helplessness while you entertain your lover?" I asked evenly. The mask finally fell away. No more pretense, No more lies, just naked truth after months of deception. Claire's face crumpled. "I can explain," she started desperately. "You've been explaining for months," I interrupted, pulling out my phone and reading from their texts. Each message hit her like physical blows. "Where's Richard?" "Still hiding upstairs." "Your wife is waiting in the driveway, Richard," I called up to him. "What?" Claire whispered in shock. "Sarah's outside. She has copies of everything. She's also called your employer, your parents, and several others who should know what kind of person they've been trusting," I explained matter-of-factly. I walked back the curtain. Sarah's car was parked across the street, and she was making difficult phone calls. "The emails went out an hour ago. Everyone who matters to both of you now knows exactly who you really are," I continued. Richard finally appeared, partially dressed and looking like a man watching his life end. "David, we can work this out," he pleaded. "Work what out?" "Consequences. Justice? Complete destruction of two people who tried to have me declared mentally incompetent so they could steal my life?" I asked coldly. I held up my phone, showing the comprehensive dossier. 4 months of evidence, systematic drugging, conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted psychological manipulation. Claire collapsed onto our couch where she'd drugged me dozens of times. "Please, David, I made mistakes, but we can fix this," she begged. "We can't do anything, Claire. You destroyed our marriage the first time you decided to drug me," I stated firmly. I walked to our front door and opened it wide. 10 minutes to gather what you need for tonight. Tomorrow, my lawyer will contact you about divorce proceedings. Richard, go home and explain to your children why Daddy won't be living with them anymore," I instructed coldly. The next 10 minutes were chaos. Claire ran upstairs while Richard gathered scattered clothes and tried calling his wife, who no longer answered. I stood in our doorway like a bouncer, watching two people who'd believed they were intelligent suddenly realize they'd been foolish. When they finally left, I closed the door on 15 years of my life and walked into my house's silence. I poured myself a real drink and sat surrounded by wreckage of everything I'd thought permanent. My phone buzzed with messages, some from Claire begging for chances, some from Richard's wife thanking me, some from Claire's family expressing shock, but I ignored them all. Tonight was for processing what I'd lost and gained. I'd lost my marriage, trust, and faith in the woman I'd loved. But I'd gained knowledge that I was stronger than imagined, more capable of protecting myself than anyone who tried to victimize me would expect. And I'd gained justice. Perfect, complete, devastating justice that would follow them forever. 6 months later, I sit in my house, truly mine now after the divorce settlement, and assess the destruction I created in 4 days. The silence has become comfortable. No more performances, no more carefully managed conversations, no more watching for deception in every gesture. The divorce was swift and brutal. Claire's attempts to claim emotional distress crumbled under documented evidence. Her lawyer advised accepting my terms without contest. She kept her car, personal belongings, and debt. Everything else remained with the victim of her systematic assault. Claire's professional life disintegrated completely. Morrison and Associates terminated both her and Richard within 48 hours, citing ethics violations and legal liability. Their industry was small. The story of executives who drugged one's husband became a cautionary tale destroying careers permanently. Richard's destruction followed similar patterns with amplified consequences. Sarah used my evidence to secure a divorce settlement, leaving him with supervised visitation and significant alimony obligations. His church expelled him, his professional associations quietly terminated memberships, and financial ruin followed. Most fitting was their relationship's complete failure. Without deception's excitement and forbidden meetings' thrill, Claire and Richard discovered they had nothing substantial in common. Their affair had been built on lies and victimizing an innocent party. Once I was no longer available as victim, their connection evaporated. Claire made one final reconciliation attempt 3 months after our divorce. She appeared at my door looking older, wearing cheaper clothes, having lost weight unhealthily. Her eyes held desperation I'd never seen. She acknowledged understanding what she'd lost, what she'd thrown away. But understanding doesn't undo damage. I explained that she hadn't just had an affair. She'd systematically drugged me while planning psychiatric commitment. That wasn't mistake or weakness. That was calculated cruelty. She left without asking for anything else, just final acknowledgement that some actions create consequences too severe for redemption. I keep the ashtray on my mantelpiece now, not as betrayal shrine, but as reminder of the moment I chose to stop being victim. Those lipstick-stained cigarette butts had revealed truth and given me power to reclaim my life. Some ashes are meant to be preserved, not as memorials to destruction, but as reminders of what rose from flames. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.